the cost ceiling increase to $625,928.87. This was due to unforeseen conditions that were encountered in the field. The original scope called for clearing a blocked drainage CMP pipe, corrugated metal pipe, that had filled with debris following wildfires and rain events. The scope then changed to preparing site for a new phase once we'd uncovered that pipe and discovered that it had been collapsed and was in need of replacement. The new phase of work is now currently under work. The contractor's T&M invoices for the phase of work in this contract acceptance was $601,878.10, and they were paid over 5 progress payments. Contract was issued using an emergency on-call list, so thus no specific MBEWB levels were established, and the contractor has complied with all EEO and labor requirements for the contract. Work was completed on November 20th, 2018, and there are no unresolved complaints or disputed funds.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McReynolds. Any questions on number 3? No questions on number 3. Commissioner Santos made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3, seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 3. Any issue sending number 3 forthwith? We will send number 3 forthwith. Agenda item number 1, Bureau of Engineering and Council District 15, Capital Improvement Program number 8534, Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant Site and Drainage Improvements, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to use a construction services contract and to issue task work orders to the Cisco, that's the construction services contract, for an amount not to exceed $600,000 for the site and drainage improvement project. And just for clarification, Cisco is not a company that we're using. It is the acronym for the construction services contract. Ibrahim Hafiz. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Ibrahim Hafiz, and I am a project manager for the Bureau of Engineering's Environmental Engineering Division. The project I'm presenting on today this morning was originally briefed on by Crystal Lee, my predecessor, who I'm happy to report has promoted to a new position within the Bureau, and I'll be taking over project management responsibilities for most of our projects. I'm here today to request authorization for the city engineer to utilize Cisco to issue task work orders to the Cisco contractor for a not to exceed amount of $600,000 for the Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant's site and drainage improvements project. And just a quick background on Cisco, it is a 3-year contract that's awarded to a competitively selected contractor, and it is currently on its 10th iteration, awarded to Murray Company, and has a contract ceiling of $15 million. Now, this project is at the Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant, and as a fully functioning facility, it has to adhere to the National Pollution Elimination Discharge System permit, or the NPDES permit. And what this permit entails is that it sets the limits and thresholds for what the plant can discharge on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, and this includes the concentrations or the pollutants that's leaving the plant. It also sets the monitoring and reporting requirements for the plant as well, and in its essence, the provisions are to ensure that the discharge does not hurt the water quality of any receiving body of water or public health. And so over the past few years with major rainfall events, the plant has had to erect temporary solutions such as sandbag berm walls to mitigate any sorts of flooding type events. And we conducted an analysis to see why this was being caused. And we found that the catch basins and the stormwater conveyance infrastructure on the plant was critically undersized. In addition, the gratings on the catch basins themselves were designed many, many years ago, and they had openings that were intended to let a lot more flow of water in, but instead they were actually letting debris such as dirt and leaves from trees in as well, and were clogging up the pipes. In addition, there were certain site conditions such as asphalt berms that were supposed to redirect water into nearby catch basins, but they weren't working as efficiently as possible and needed to be redesigned. So this project identified 4 key locations in which we could conduct site and drainage improvements. In 3 of these locations, we would be constructing new catch basins that are upsized to accommodate for more water, and we will also be constructing and installing new piping infrastructure to convey stormwater into the in-plant sewer system. We will also be installing new grating that complies with current city standard design, and will have smaller openings so that debris is caught at the street level and does not flow into the pipes itself. Furthermore, we'll be installing a trench drain to capture water and convey that into the stormwater system within the plant, and then improving the site, such as installing a new asphalt berm barrier that will direct water to the implant sewer system as well. Now, we are recommending the use of Cisco for this project because it is a small project that would be inefficient to go through a normal bid and award period based on the scale of the project and from a time and soft cost perspective. This also allows for early engagement with between the contractor, the plant staff, and design team, so they can catch construction and constructability issues early on in the design and not during construction. And lastly, per the plant's request, this project was requested to be completed as expeditiously as possible so that their stormwater collection infrastructure will be ready for the next wet weather season. The estimated value of work is $600,000, which includes a 20% contingency. And in the interest of expeditious project completion that will allow continued compliance with the plant's NPDES permit, we are recommending to the board to authorize the use of Cisco for this project.
Great, thank you, Mr. Hafiz. Any questions, Commissioner Jacinto?
Thank you, President James. Good morning, Ibrahim.
morning.
Good job on the presentation today. So Crystal is promoted, and you're now the project manager in charge of some of these projects.
That's correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
To you too as well. We're trying to capture all the water so it doesn't go untreated, and that's why the Cisco project, correct, is
That's
being
correct.
proposed. Okay, so there's 4 locations, and if we do these 4 locations, we'll be able to capture all the water and treat it on site.
That's correct. And there's berm sandbag walls that are erected right now that kind of handle this already, but there's a temporary solution to a much more permanent problem. So once this project is complete, we won't be needing that.
Okay, sandbags, yeah, are not appropriate for continued rain events and all these things too. So this scope of work is appropriate under Cisco, so I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on agenda item number 1? Commissioner Sintos made a motion on agenda item number 1. I'll second it. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Thank you, Mr. Hafiz.
Thank you very much.
Any issue sending number 1 forthwith? We will send number 1 forthwith. Agenda item number 4, contract award maintenance hole resetting. This is engineering, contract administration, and sanitation. Recommending that the board find transmittal number 1 to be unmerited as discussed in the report. Secondly, declare Axiom Group the first low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder, and award Axiom a contract including the additive alternative bid item number 9 for the project for the total amount of $4,476,895, and authorize myself or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained by the city attorney. Or from the city attorney. Mr. Morales.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Board members and all representatives that are here today. As you may recall, this contract or this particular project, we have to rebid it, and the results came out a few months back. We briefed Commissioner Jacinto. And based on several meetings with city attorney and with our own management staff, we agreed that transmittal number 1 was deemed on merit. And for that reason, we're requesting to please declare as the lowest bidder Axiom Group for the total contract amount of $4,476,000, and to authorize to please approve the board report to be able to continue the contract for a 3-year period. And as you may recall, this is for the adjustment of sewer maintenance holes and storm drains that get paid by street services, and this will help us provide inspection and maintenance to the collection systems that we have on the city of Los Angeles.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just by way of, because we did receive, although we don't have any speaker cards on the item, we did receive a communication from the 3rd low bidder. Just to review the procedure that is referenced in the board report, and Mr. Jordan, I'll just ask for your thoughts on this as I conclude. There was an original request some time ago, I think back in June, regarding an attempt by Axiom at the time to withdraw their bid. That item was continued by the Board of Public Works for a couple of different times for a couple of different reasons, in which, as I recall, initially was to get more information on the summary of bids that had been received. In the interim, on a hearing in July, on July 25th, 2018, Engineering and Sanitation collectively had requested that the item be simply withdrawn so that they could come back with an attempt to reject all bids and rebid the project. That occurred on August 17th, 2018. So the board never took the action of granting the request by Axiom originally to withdraw their bid, because Engineering and Sanitation decided to withdraw all bids, well, withdraw the item and then ask the board for permission to reject all bids, which the board granted in August. So we're back for the rebid of this item. Axiom has rebid as well as a couple of others, and they are the low bid. Mr. Jordan, the board report indicates that that process complies with the public contracting code by reference of your concurrence with the recommendations contained in the report, and I wanted to confirm that for the oral record.
Certainly, yes, I reviewed the Bureau's recommendations, and I do concur in the recommendation that this does comply with the public contract code. As you noted, the Board of Public Works never approved the withdrawal of the bid, so therefore the prohibition in the public contract code does not apply. So again, to summarize, I concur with the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, then I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 4, seconded by Commissioners Jacinto and Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 4. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And just as a side note, I just do want to make a comment that the fact that we rebid actually brought our prices down, and that's something that was brought up to Commissioner Jacinto. So we're saving about $600,000 for the fact that we were able to rebid the contracts once more.
Well, thank you for adding that. That's
Thank you.
helpful. So just by way, so these bids came in about $600,000 less than what was rejected before?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. So any objection to sending this item forthwith? So we'll send agenda item number 4 forthwith. Agenda item number 2, tree removal in Council District 1, 798 Montecito Drive. Recommending that the board first find that the project is categorically exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 3, Category 1 of the city's Environmental Quality Act guidelines, and there is no substantial evidence that the proposed project will have a significant effect on the environment and is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, that's CEQA. Secondly, find that none of the exceptions to the use of the categorical exemption is set forth in Section 15300.2 of the state CEQA guidelines apply. Third, specify that the Bureau of Street Services Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of the proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And fourth, approve the request for a fee tree removal for 6 Southern California walnut trees due to grading required for slope remediation and new home construction. Mr. Banuelos on agenda item number 4.
Yes, good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, City Attorney, and
I'm
Dr.
sorry,
Campos.
agenda item number 2. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Hector Banuelos with the Bureau of Street Services Urban Forestry Division. Amazing Properties V LLC are constructing a new single-family residence located at 798 Montecito Drive. The proposed residence has a footprint that measures approximately 1,530 square feet, located on a parcel measuring 4,694 square feet with a floor area ratio of 33%. The property is an undeveloped hillside vacant lot with steep to moderate topography. The property currently has 7 protected trees, which are Southern California walnuts, of which 6 are going to require removal. The 6 Southern California black walnut trees are growing within and directly adjacent to the footprint of the proposed residence and will be directly impacted by the project's construction and grading requirements. The 6 Southern California black walnut trees proposed for the removal measure approximately 10 to 14 inches in cumulative diameter by 15 to 20 feet in height and are in fair condition. One of the Southern California black walnut trees will be minimally impacted and protected in place. A Bureau arborist inspected the location on October 11th of 2017 and or later on that approximately October of 2018 and found that the trees on the property are at conditions stated in the protected tree report and the addendum of the protected tree report. The Bureau agrees that reasonable development of the property requires removal of the 6 protected trees. The Bureau arborist inspected the location as previously mentioned on October 11th and later on in 2018, October of 2018. The project is categorically exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 3, Category 32 of the City's Environmental Quality Act guidelines, and there is no substantial evidence that the proposed project will have a significant effect on the environment and is compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. The First Council, District Office, Community Forestry Advisory Council, and the Department of Neighborhood Environment were informed of the tree removal permit request. If approved, the applicant shall plant 24 15-gallon size or as large a container size available of Southern California black walnut trees on the property to replace the removed trees. The survival of the trees shall be guaranteed for a period of 3 years by bond, and the applicant shall water the trees for a minimum of 3-year period. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Banuelos. Any questions at all on agenda item number 2? We'll start with Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James. Hector, did you comment on the health of the trees that are slated to be removed?
Sorry, what was the
The
question?
health of the trees that are slated to be...
Yeah, the health is a fair condition overall.
I know that we had been talking about embedding sort of a process of trying to see if trees can be retained and not removed based on layout in the planning, and I know that that has been our board's sort of, and this administration's want to save trees. Did that happen here, or is that a part of things moving forward, Hector?
Yes, we did scrutinize the plans, and according to where the location of the trees are, there's just no way that the trees can be retained in place and still construct a single-family residence.
Okay, so that's important because our bureau, who in particular did that, sir?
I did. Tim reviewed it. The area
Great.
respective superintendent reviewed them.
And I want to thank you because that's what we were asking in terms of that review to ensure that we would be removing as minimal trees as possible in the construction of single-family residences. So I think that was a great thing. Thank you for doing that. And so that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. Commissioner Cabello.
Thank you, President James. You reference here in the board report that CD1 was contacted regarding the removal. Did you get any feedback? And I saw the email sent to Jose Rodriguez, but did you get any feedback from them or anybody else regarding the tree removal?
No, we have not.
Thank you, Commissioner Cabello. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, President James. Hector, I have a question. What is I was trying to read through the board report and find it, but what's the replacement action plan?
It's 4 trees for every tree removed. On the plans indicate that they're going to replant 24 15-gallon or as large a container size available of Southern California black walnut trees on the
Will
property.
they be planted back on site?
They're going to plant it on site.
And
Yes.
there's already been plans on how they're going to go back to the property?
Yes, they just submitted a tree planting plan.
Okay, we didn't get that on the board report. At least I don't have it.
It was a transmittal number 9.
Maybe this whole tablet thing happening is not working out. Thank you. It is in the board report. Okay, sorry, it is in the board report. I was trying to use this now. I'm not ready, Fernando.
working with
I'm
some-
not ready, Fernando. I still need
We're
both.
working with some new equipment
Yeah,
with
like
our
I'm not
with our
ready.
iPads here.
I was trying to go fully tablet, but it's not working.
Oh, tablet. Sorry,
I
tablet.
know, tablet,
I've
iPad.
even got the term wrong.
Thank you for that. I'll read it. Thank you, Hector.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Anything further? I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2. agenda item number 2, seconded by Commissioner Jacinto and Commissioner Garcia. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson, as well. Any issues sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Dr. Campos, have we cleared the voting items?
Yes, you have.
Okay, agenda item number 5 is an oral report, an update, status update, Metro, Crenshaw, LAX, Transit Corridor update, Bureaus of Contract Administration, Engineering, Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transit Authority, and Walsh-Shea Corridor Constructors. We'll start with Chris Cox from the Bureau of Contract Administration.
Morning, President James, Commissioners, and Bureau representatives. I'm Chris Cox, the Bureau of Contract Administration. What would you like me to report?
Fair question, Chris. We've been here a number of times with you and with Metro, and we appreciate Metro and Walsh-Shea being here. The reason that you are coming every few weeks is because we've had a punch list of, that's a term of, an industry term.
Yes, sir.
That's used on lots of projects as well as this project. The punch list has been in existence for a long, go ahead.
It was issued in hard copy to Walsh-Shea on March 24th of 2018.
Okay, so a number of months.
Yes, sir.
And we've wanted updates along the way on the satisfaction of items on the punch list because we've had a number of phases of street closures through phases of the project that the board has approved. And along the way, we have had to slow things down or extend dates along the lines and provide continuances because punch list items weren't completed, things weren't completed in estimated periods of time, et cetera, for the Crenshaw line. And this is a critically important project for the region, for the state, for the community, for the city. And so I think today you could update us on where we are or where you are on, when I say we collectively, on the punch list and what is upcoming that the board can anticipate regarding potential closures and things like that.
Okay, Mr. President. So the list itself, to my knowledge, and I spoke to my staff this morning, none of the items have been physically corrected. We have made some progress with the process of closeout and the way that we're going to do partial finals and accept the work when it is completed. But as of today, none of those punch list items have been corrected. In addition, there were 3 phases of closure, and we let them lift that closure before all the work was completed with a guarantee from them that they would do the corrections off peak hours and under watch manual closures, which are break down and install every day. So as of today, there has been some activity in the Expo station box footprint, but the other 2 closures, none of those items have been corrected as of today. So there's quite a bit of work to do out there. There's a lot of design issues on the east side of Crenshaw that need to be addressed. So that's my report on the physical work. There has not been any corrections to the punch list.
So, Chris, look, I realize well, let me just confirm with you. We have representatives from Walsh-Shea and Metro in the room, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, this March 2018 punch list, what can BCA do? What has BCA done to monitor work that's being done? What can you do? What do you do when punch list items aren't completed?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. President. We don't have typical authority like we would do in a cash contract that the city had put out where maybe we could withhold some funds to get them to cooperate or get their schedule back on track. With Metro and with this contractor, we don't have the funds to do that with. So we basically try to compel Metro to compel Walsh to make the corrections in a timely manner. And we do have a schedule now, and I think the plan is going forward. But again, I would like to see some of the physical work get completed before I can report a comfort level here to this board.
So I remember, Chris, some of the discussions we've had around recent closures. And when I say we again collectively, the city, Metro, and the contractor as well, but the city and Metro, we worked hard to provide some partial closures, reopening of the street, particularly around Thanksgiving, and we were always getting assurances and reassurances from the contractor. My concern is that we continue down this road, literally and figuratively, but we're not getting anywhere with what needs to happen on the punch list items for the project to be not only completed but done properly. And so any idea why we've had these challenges?
My only opinion would be that Walshay has a direction that they're going in, and their critical path might not line up with what we need and to get done in a timely fashion, because there are some ADA compliance and some exposure issues out there in Crenshaw that really need to be addressed. So,
when you say exposure issues, you mean risk management issues?
yes, sir.
Potential dangers?
Trip and fall type
Yes.
situations that we need to have addressed. So I believe that maybe some more resources need to be brought in to work in parallel with the critical path, which in my opinion is probably getting the train running down the track and collecting revenue. So our issues, I don't see why, some additional resources can't be hired to take care of the punch list specifically.
Look, this is, and then I'll take other members' questions. What concerns me, makes it difficult for me, I think difficult for the board. I'm sure we're going to have some additional street closure requests coming.
Yes, sir.
We want to grant those street closure requests because the work on the project needs to be done. The project needs to get completed, but the work needs to be done and the project needs to be completed pursuant to the city's standards. That's our job. I'm concerned about granting future street closures when the commitments for previous closures haven't been met. How much leeway do we provide before we're hurting ourselves?
That's a good question, Mr. President. I'm not comfortable answering it right now. I think you should speak to maybe Metro and Walshay and see what they can do to adhere to the previous commitments and maybe give us a comfort level that going forward, when we make commitments, we comply with them in a timely fashion. And I'm not here to say that they don't have any intention of doing it. It just, when they made the commitment, we expected to be much more timely, especially with the closure items that are outstanding.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of colleagues with their lights on. Let's go to them, and then perhaps we get to the discussion with Metro and Walshay in that process. Commissioner Davis and then Commissioner Ascento.
Chris, right?
Yes, sir.
Wanted to ask BCA, in terms of the project overall, has there been a pattern of difficulty in achieving corrections on punch lists through prior phases?
Well, I'm going to say this. On this project, nothing is 100% complete at all. So I can't quantify it because...
So my question is, on the prior phases of the project, has there been a pattern of failure to complete the punch list items identified by BCA?
The answer would have to be yes, because we haven't completed a punch list as of today.
All of the project completely?
Nothing. As of today, nothing. There might be one sewer line over by the airport that we finalized and accepted, but other than that...
So throughout the duration of this project, none of the punch list items identified by Bureau of Contract Administration have been completed?
That's correct.
Okay. What is the role of MTA in this project as you understand it from your experience?
Well, the way the master cooperative agreement reads to me is that when the city has a problem, if the contractor does not correct it, it is in the Metro's court to compel them to comply.
In your work, what communication have you had with Metro, starting back to the initial punch list items identified that you claim have not been completed today? What specifically has been your communication with MTA in this regard?
Well, we have meetings bi-weekly as to question them when the corrections are going to be made. And we just did finally get a schedule that has line items that speak about those corrections and the final inspections going forward.
So if I hear you correctly, you have just met with MTA to get some response to earlier and requests that have been given to them, MTA I'm talking about, for many months ago from the inception of this project. Is that correct?
Yes, at least every 2 weeks we remind them about the punch list.
So would I be accurate in assuming that you have been dissatisfied in your communication with MTA on this project?
I would say I'm dissatisfied with the actions taken. I was expecting much more timely completion of these items. As far as the communication, it seems like we're getting to a point where we agree on what needs to be done. But my concern is that we gave them this list March 24th of last year because we were concerned that they weren't getting completed, and here we are January of the following year with no items completed. So I believe we worked out the process. We've got all the kinks, or close to all the kinks out. They just need to go to work and do the work, and
so
I don't have a way to
basically
compel
what
them.
I'm hearing from you is that you have been communicating with MTA for how long now?
At least 9 months.
For 9 months, and you've had several meetings with them, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in those meetings with them, it's just now that you were able to get some results?
I wouldn't say that. I'd say that we've inched along a little bit here and there, but again, they were just improvements to the process. None of the physical work has ever gotten done, and that's the bell that I've been ringing since back in March of last year. Is let's do the work.
I'm trying to evaluate your communication with MTA so we can be on the same page. You have been dealing with them since the inception of this project, and in your communication with MTA, you've been dissatisfied all along, right?
Yes.
And what have you done to let them know that their response has been insufficient and unsatisfactory?
Well, I've used the conflict resolution letter that we all filled out at the beginning of the project, and I brought it to the attention of the Phil Washington at the executive director's meetings that we have on a monthly basis. I've sent many emails to their executive management, Rich Clark, explaining that nothing's getting done.
And then what responses? And your response has been just like a week ago or so?
No, they've responded along the way that we're working on a schedule and we'll get to it. And there's been, quite a few, I guess, promises that have been made, but we just did get the schedule maybe a month ago, and we're still digesting it. It's quite a big and complex schedule, but it's made the attempt to put in our punch list items, so we have made some progress, but it's taken a while.
Okay, I'm confused.
I'm sorry?
I'm confused. Have you had a fair, have you had a successful, have you had an unsuccessful level of communication with MTA?
Unsuccessful, I would say, because the work's not done.
Okay, so your communication with MTA has been unsuccessful on this project.
Yes, sir.
Do they know that?
Yes, sir. I think I brought it to the board's attention also that it's not working, and I've asked for help.
No, have you told MTA that?
Yes.
That their performance in communicating with you on this project has been unsuccessful?
I have told them that their performance on correcting the punch list items have been unsuccessful.
One final thing. What was their response when you notified them that their performance in communicating with you on this project is unsuccessful as you see it?
We're going to work it out and figure this out and get to work.
Okay, I'll be ready to talk to MTA at some point in time.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Davis. Let's have Commissioner Asento's questions, and then we'll come back, and Commissioner Garcia, then we'll come back to you, Commissioner Davis, to talk to representatives from Metro.
Right.
Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James. I appreciate your opening remarks to Chris, and Chris, thank you for the report and update. This ongoing project for Crenshaw has come to my attention too as the representative on the board to Metro. I have regular meetings with the construction manager, executive Rick Clark, and our deputy city engineer, Alfred Mata, on this issue of compliance, of completing the work that we expect in terms of the Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 of Crenshaw. And President James, I support a more vigorous, a more escalated plan of action to complete the 600 plus items, of which, Chris, you say a few have been addressed with Phase 3, but 1 and 2. And I remember in our board meetings, Walsh's representative came in and said there's a schedule, they would present the schedule, and there was an indication to the Board of Public Works that they would complete more and more of this as they go on. Today's testimony from Chris Cox does not go that way. And so we have representatives of Metro here, we have representatives of Walsh, and I think that we need to ramp it up to escalate the expectations to ensure that our city, the stakeholders, as you say, President James, all the stakeholders for this project benefit from 100% of what Commissioner Davis would say to inspect what we expect. That's 100% compliance. So I'm anxious to hear from both Metro, I know Sammy's here, and the whole team from Metro is here, about what their role, what they could do as primary relationship with the contractor. And I believe we'll need to discuss what we can do as a Board of Public Works to support Metro in being successful with their contractor to be 100%.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner Jacinto. Commissioner Garcia.
I want to second also what Commissioner Jacinto has said, but also I also want to hear from the contractor and see what is the overall reason. So I know that they're here. Maybe we can also get them up here and they can explain to us what the holdup has been. And then I just want to know overall, what's the percentage completed overall for this project?
I believe they're somewhere in the 70%, but the work that the whole project, we don't really concern ourselves with what is going on in the Metro right away. We're talking about the city improvements and the city infrastructure that has either been damaged or constructed incorrectly. And so a lot of the work has been done, but there's quite a few corrections in the Park Mesa area. And I want to clarify so everyone understands the punch list that I'm talking about. Those are items of work that they have completed but need corrections. The other items in the closure areas, those are incomplete items where the work was not done in the time that was allotted during the closure, but they wanted to open it up for commercial reasons or they want, for the neighborhood impact reasons. So they went ahead and opened it up early with giving us the guarantee that they would do the completion of those items off-peak hours, either on the weekend or at night. So that's what we expected to see in a pretty quick fashion, and that has not occurred in the first two closures. There is some work going on in the Expo footprint.
So they have to finish the punch list of the things that they've already done, right?
Yes, they have to make the corrections.
And make the corrections. And then in addition, are they now doing work that gets us ahead?
They're doing work in the Expo station box closure. There were some items that never got completed before they opened up, so they are in there working. The other two closures, there's items that have not been completed in there that when those are completed, then we will punch those out. That's how we come up with a punch list. So in addition to the 600 punch list items we have, anything else we look at, we'll probably add to the list. Yes.
So we're nowhere on our timeline. We're not adhering to the timeline, right?
Well, as far as their critical path on getting the train rolling, I couldn't speak to that. As far as making our corrections, no, we're far behind.
Okay, and for the overall completion of the project, are we far behind?
The original date I know we won't make. I would let Metro speak to where they are as far as completing the project on time. I know it's back at least 6 or 7 months at this point, but I would have Metro speak to where they are on that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. And Chris, thank you for the kind of dividing up the punch list versus the uncompleted items and the closures. We're obviously concerned about both, but it's the uncompleted items and the closures that we have to consider when we look at upcoming closure requests to our board.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Davis, you're coming back around to you. Commissioner Davis would like to hear, thank you, Chris. You can take a seat for a moment.
Thank you.
We have a couple of representatives from Metro here. It's really up to Metro who they would like to have answer some of Commissioner Davis's questions.
Good morning, President James, Commissioner. My name is Sami Gali. I'm the Senior Executive Officer for Metro and the Project Director for Crenshaw Project.
Mr. James, is that correct? You said Mr. James is your name?
Sorry?
What's your last name?
Gali.
Gan?
Gali. G-H-A-L-Y.
Oh, Gally.
Yeah.
Gally.
Yeah,
Okay, Gally.
that's it. Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Gally, for being here. I talked about what the role of MTA is in the project. Can you just very briefly summarize to me what the role of MTA is for the purpose of our discussion?
Well, Crenshaw project is a transit project. The contractor is contracted by the MTA. Our role is to oversee the project to successful completion, including correcting any deficiency item or incomplete item in behalf of the city.
And in that role, you communicate with the Bureau of Contract Administration for the City of Los Angeles as it relates to them being the client on the project. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, correct.
And you remember having had several conversations with the Bureau of Contract about this specific project during the inception and currently regarding the project. You've communicated with BCA.
Yes, but I wasn't here from the inception. I've been here only for a few months. But since I came, yes.
So would it be reasonable to assume that you have been updated at least on the last activities as it relates to the project and communications with the Bureau of Contract Administration?
Yes.
In your communications with the project, you've worked with Chris and talked with him about the project since
Correct.
you've been here. How long have you been here with the project?
Sorry?
How long has it been since you've assumed supervision responsibilities on the project? Is it
I would say
4 or
6,
5
7 months.
6 or 7 months?
Yeah.
And in those 6 or 7 months and your communication with BCA, do you remember ever them expressing to you that they were not satisfied with our, and when I say our, I'm joining you as MTA, with our supervision of the project, with MTA's supervision of the project? Do you remember BCA expressing that to you?
I don't remember a concern about the supervision of the project. I remember concern about not cleaning up or finishing up the deficiencies, yes.
Wouldn't there be some relationship between supervising it and the completion of the task in and of itself, if in fact the initial discussion that you had with them was to get a punch list of items to be corrected? Wouldn't there be some relationship between those two things that you just mentioned?
Kind of, but
That's what I
the
thought.
project is under the contractor's control, and he controls the means and method.
Then let's come back to what you understood BCA to say. You didn't understand them to say that they were dissatisfied with the involvement, the supervision of MTA on this project. You didn't understand them to say that. Is that correct?
No, but I understand that they're concerned about not completing the items.
Okay. So you see that as a separate thing.
Yeah.
In terms of the completion of the project and those items, do you agree that of those uncompleted items for closure, that it has been a long period of time that these things haven't been done?
Yes.
You agree that they have not been done?
Yes.
What do you describe the problem as being, not only in your communication with BCA, but what do you describe the problem being in completing the task and working with us here in the city?
For one, the contractor needs to mobilize additional resources.
I'm sorry?
The contractor has to mobilize additional resources.
He has to mobilize
Yes.
additional resources.
Because the contractor is focused on critical path. Critical path means to finish the main project. And the smaller item, they feel that they can address it when they have time. Well, the time is now to address it. That's why we have to escalate the issue. We have many meetings in the last few weeks. Concurrently, we develop a process by which we broke in or the contractor broke the contract in sections, and we're going to meet prior to getting into each section to answer the contractor question, whether from BOE, from different things, So when they get into the section, they clean it up completely. So the first section, we're going to test this process, will start middle of February, sorry. So we'll see how the process is, I believe, satisfactory to Con Ed, to us, and the contractor developer too. So we'll see the first section, whether right now they're working the expo closure item, outstanding item, the non-completed item, but we're going to get into cleaning up the deficiencies in the first section in middle of February and see how if the process works and they clean up a section, the city committed to give them final, so that will release the contractor. They can clean up all the deficiencies once at one section, then they move to the next section.
You're telling me that the contractor is not providing the adequate resources to complete the corrections in a timely manner, is that correct?
Yeah, otherwise they will be done.
Let me ask you this. The Bureau of Contract Administration just testified that there has been a pattern of this kind of performance, or lack of performance, if you will. So that means, obviously, you've been there for 6 months. I would suspect that during your tenure, at least you've had at least 2 rounds of interaction, communication with BCA, and also of corrections given to you by them. And if it's true that the contractor has not provided the adequate resources to get these corrections done, then why is it that after the first time that they didn't get it done, and obviously you must have given them some corrective action, correct?
Yes.
And then why is this pattern of behavior continuing to occur that you are overseeing with the contractor? Because this is not the first time, as it relates to this specific time, that we've not had the adequate resources being executed by the contractor, correct?
Yes.
Well, why is that?
Well, the issue of deficiency is a common issue in every big project.
Sure.
Because the contractor would like to finish the big work item,
Sure.
then they attend to the deficiency. So
Sure.
they tend to defer the deficiency.
Right.
The contractor never said that they will not do it.
Right.
They prefer to delay it, and we prefer to address it now. Because if we have 600 items now, we still have a year to go on the project.
Right.
They're going to be 1,000, 1,500. We don't want to defer 1,500 until the end of the job. We need to address them now.
So there's a disagreement with how to proceed on that particular item between both MTA and the contractors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile this difference? Obviously, you're the boss, right?
Yes.
So then when they have this difference and you make the final decision that we're going left instead of right, as an example, they go left with you, don't they?
Right now, we have a process they agreed to.
Uh-huh.
They're going to adhere to. We're going to monitor it. And we'll see. Again, the first section will be middle of February. We're going to see how resource-oriented, and they provided a good resource to finish entire section, complete it, and we'll get it off our back, and we'll go to the next section. So this agreement more or less resolved by developing the process that Con Ed, myself, and the contractor were involved in developing.
Doing work in the city of Los Angeles is different than the way in which Walshay has done work in other municipalities in terms of the way that they practice contracting regarding these kinds of items.
I don't know this.
What they're doing with you, have they done that in the past on other projects?
Well, all I can tell you is, generally speaking, contractors do not want to do deficiency in a timely fashion. They try to defer it until they finish the bulk of the work. And as an owner, it's our responsibility, my responsibility, to make sure that they start addressing the deficiency as we go along.
Why do you think that they do that? Why have they expressed that they do what they do, given the fact that you've directed them otherwise?
Because they have a project to finish, and they would like to finish the critical path, because we have a penalty against them if the critical path is not finished. We have a retention too to address city deficiency if they don't complete it at the end of the project. We're not there yet. But they would want to finish the bulk of the project first, because that's the intent of the project. And they would say, okay, we'll address the deficiency as we go along. But they really defer it until the end. We don't want that to happen. We want them to address it now, even slowly, but we have to get at the 600 items now.
And given your description, that is the reason why you have assessed that they're not putting adequate resources towards being able to resolve this problem. Because if they put more resources in it, they would be able to, in other words, chew chewing gum and walk across the street at the same time.
Correct.
They
Plus,
would be able to complete this and also meet the contractual obligation to complete those core areas of the contract on time.
correct.
If they
Plus,
put- now, let me ask you this. Do they have the wherewithal to provide those additional resources that need to be on the project to confront the challenges presented to us by BCA?
yes, they're big.
They have them.
They're a big company.
What
yes.
is their problem with executing those resources in a timely manner and to understand what's before us right here in Los Angeles? What is the problem? What is their problem?
One of their concern is they would like to go to a section, clean it, finish the deficiency, hand it over to the city. That happened in this process that the city agreed, Conrad agreed to take it over. So no more deficiency. Didn't want to go into section and do deficiency, then another list appeared, then another list appeared.
What have you done as MTA, as the supervisor, to make sure that they bring forth the appropriate resources to get this job done specifically for your employer, the city of Los Angeles? What have you, MTA, done in your role as the supervisor of this project, as the person who oversees Walshay? What have you done to satisfy the client, us, the city of Los Angeles? What has MTA done to expedite this problem, knowing that we have assessed what is necessary to complete it? More resources. What has MTA done to ensure that more resources are put on every confrontation we have from BCA about completing these tasks? What has MTA done?
Okay. So first, we brought Conrad and the contractor to meetings to develop a process that's acceptable to both of them. That's done. Two, we asked Walshay to provide detailed schedule when each section will be, or each section will be addressed. That's done. We monitor Walshay resources in daily basis, and we flag it to them when we feel that there is no adequate resources provided to address this issue. So
My question is, what have you done to make sure that they have adequate resources on that? Not only do you have a plan of correction for for Walshay, but you also have to monitor that plan implementation.
And we
what have
monitor
you
that on
done
daily
to make
basis.
wait a minute. MTA needs to make sure that Walshay has the resources. I don't know how Walshay has been practicing contracting in other municipalities, but I know what you have told me in terms of what you have required them to do. You've required them to have more resources in Los Angeles on these projects so that they can both complete the corrective action on one hand and yet achieve their contractual obligation for which they should be concerned about. They signed a contract to complete these things in a timely manner, and so obviously we understand their concern in that regard, but we are frustrated with not understanding MTA's role in making sure that adequate resources are provided to get this thing done. So I think there is got to be some clearer explanation as to how MTA is monitoring progress to ensure that MTA is bringing forth the appropriate resources that you have required.
Okay, so just clarification, MTA does not provide the adequate resources. MTO requests the adequate resources
No,
to be
no. I didn't say you provided. I said you requested it of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
contractor.
Yeah.
You are the supervisor, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And they provide what you request them to provide. But you
Yes.
have to make sure that they do by evaluating them. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so I'm questioning your evaluation. And I'm asking you what kind of progress has been revealed as you have evaluated their implementation of more resources on the job that you requested them to have. That's what I'm saying. That's where
Okay.
I'm coming from.
So as far as monitoring, as I said, we monitor the resources in daily basis. Not only Walshay.
Have
there's-
in this daily basis,
Yeah.
in the last day that you evaluated, what did you discover as it relates to resources that Walshay is or is not putting forth towards resolving this problem?
Not adequate resources.
So they still don't have adequate resources after you requested it.
Yes.
What can you do about that?
Well, we elevated the issue to their ownership. We have executive meeting with their ownership that Phil Washington, Rick Clark attend, and every 2-3 months. We elevated the issue. We got commitment that they're going to be providing adequate resources.
Is Walshe resisting us? When I say us, I'm putting myself with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Are they resisting us?
I wouldn't put it this way.
I beg your pardon?
I wouldn't put it this way.
Okay, well, how would you put it?
They try to optimize their operation. They try to put the big ticket item that they get paid for quickly, early, and they didn't put their head into cleaning up the outstanding city deficiencies.
Well, the outstanding city deficiencies are a priority. They cannot be evaded. They cannot be escaped. And you have the responsibility for giving a plan to Walshe to confront, address, and resolve these issues.
Correct.
And it doesn't appear to me that you're being successful in getting Walshe to do that. Every time I ask you about it, you report to me their overall responsibility and concern about completing these contractual agreements, which we agree on. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I want them to be successful, quite actually. But that is not an answer to my question to you about how we deal with Walshe and getting these additional resources. It's as clear to me as the day is bright that, in fact, you want them to have more resources. What's unclear to me is why it is that you've not been able to get them to deliver some additional resources to resolve this problem time and time again. This is not the first time that you've not been able to get them to do resources, and I don't know if it'll be the last time, but I hope it will be. I want to know what other kind of opportunities you might have to think in innovative ways to get resources, or to get Walshe to put forth the resources you know are necessary. Do they not have the wherewithal to bring forth those resources? I'm just still unclear from you, MTA, what options you have to get them to complete this task, this challenge of bringing forth more resources. We've discussed it, you've identified it, you've discussed it with them, and you're still not able to get it done. That is your role, to work with them in a way that we're able to get this done. But rather what we're doing is going back to how Walshe wants to do it. I understand how they want to do it. I heard you the first time, how they want to do it. But as a member of the Board of Public Works, I want to get you down to change. Organizational change is what I'm evaluating here. I've already identified what the problem is. How does MTA take leadership for organizational change on this project? What does that mean? It means that how do you work with Walshe in a way that they get the resources to resolve these items that we consistently get from BCA? I'm hearing that BCA, when they talked to you, you didn't hear what they said. You didn't hear them say that they were dissatisfied with your communication with Walshe and your failure to get these resources, but that's exactly what they said to the board here today. I suggest that you figure out some other innovative ways and you focus specifically on how we can implement resources. Is it more monies needed? I'm not really hearing the answer to the question that I'm asking, but I'm really wanting to focus on these resources and what MTA can do to work more diligently with Walshe to approach these resources that you've told them you have to do. I don't know how they did it in Dallas. I don't know how they did it in Houston, but I know that they are not doing it in Los Angeles. And I don't believe that Walshe alone should be accountable. I specifically believe MTA should be accountable. I think that that is your role, and I think that that is your responsibility. And I will conclude, while I believe that, I am not saying that there are contractual obligations on the other parts of the projects should be abandoned. That is not what I am saying. I am saying I am specifically focusing on the failure of MTA to communicate effectively with Walshe to get the appropriate resources to address the concerns time and time again that has been given to them for the entire duration of this particular project, according to BCA. MTA, in my book, is at the head of the line on this issue.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Cabell.
Thank you, President James. Forgive me for being new, but I'm not quite familiar with this as my colleagues. Can you expand for me on the penalty provisions of the contract?
There's two type of, there's penalty for finishing late, and every day there is a penalty associated with it. But at the same time, we have a retention in the contract to address any outstanding deficiency. So when we pay them an invoice, we keep part of it with MTA until all the deficiencies are completed at the end of the project.
How far off schedule is the project?
Close to 90%.
Off schedule, I mean, when was it due to be completed?
Off schedule. Right now, the schedule is for them to finish by end of this year.
What was the original projection?
I believe May, so it's about 6 months.
Thank you. So I think the oral report will be received. I do want to do this, though. I know that, well, I've been informed that Jeff Mays, civil project engineer from Walshay, is here. Mr. Mays, we don't have any further questions for you directly, but I don't want to close the hearing without giving you the opportunity to say anything if you want to. It's up to you. Thank you, Mr. Gowley.
Morning, President James,
Morning.
Commissioners. So a couple things I just wanted to address based on what I heard out here today. So back in November, December, when we first started having these, or we first started attending these meetings regularly, we promised to get a schedule in that everybody could see as far as the plan going forward. We broke these. I'll first address the 600-item list that keeps being referenced. We addressed those areas and broke them up in that schedule into 5 locations. And those locations were scheduled to start and are scheduled to start on March the 4th with correcting those issues. So there's a detailed schedule. I won't, unless you guys want to know, I won't go through the 5 different areas, but that's where we are right now. In regard to resources, we have a slightly different perspective on it, but we don't think the issue is all resources. We believe that the main issue driving it right now is that there are several outstanding design issues that are preventing us from getting several of the areas of work completed. So, and that's mainly in relation to the closure areas. We have started work at Expo, as Mr. Cox referenced earlier. However, there's several open items that are prohibiting us from getting that completed. So, in most of these areas, there's several outstanding design issues, which Sameh referenced earlier. We're developing a process where items get escalated between ConAd, BOE, Metro, and Walshay to hopefully get those issues behind us so we can prosecute the work more timely. So.
All right, thank you for the information. Commissioner Davis, you have a couple questions?
Yes, I do. The BCA and MTA has expressed to you that it's resources, and you differ with them, correct?
Repeat your last part. Repeat your last part of your question, Commissioner Davis. I'm sorry.
Bureau of Contract Administration and MTA has expressed to you that resources are needed for some of the items that have been identified for correction, correct?
I had not heard this exact discussion today that they believe that the issue is resources.
So this is the first time you've heard of this?
For this particular issue regarding punch list type items.
MTA just said that they told you that it was resources. They did not.
I do not believe so, not directly.
MTA just testified that they have identified for some time on multiple issues that we've had before BCA to correct. They said more than one occasion they have shared with you that they believe more resources are needed. Has that been the case that you can recall?
There have been discussions on the project multiple times on resources.
Yes.
I'm not aware of that discussion specifically in regards to this punch list item discussion.
I thought I heard correctly. If I misheard, then I'd certainly like to be corrected. I thought I heard them say that they said resources were necessary for this particular item, punch list here. And so communication is critical. And I know in every organization we are human beings, and sometimes there's miscommunication. I think we need to get it reclarified with just what they said, but I thought that that's what I heard them say. And I think it's important that you are very clear, because you are the contractor, that you get clear about what it is that they're saying. But I do have a concern. You saying you disagree that resources is the priority in the case. Now, I think that there has to be some conclusion. You are the contractor. You are legally held to completing the project, and I understand that. But I also have an operational concern that if they feel it's resources and you do not, that there is some communication between the parties and that there is a final agreement about what in fact it is. Secondly, I have a concern that who is the client here? Who's the client? I'm asking you a question.
Okay.
Who's the client?
Well, my client directly is MTA.
That's what I thought. So the client is saying that it's resources, you're saying it's not. Not to say that professionally you could be correct, but it is to say for me, as a member of the Board of Public Works, I'm concerned about the communication between MTA, between Walshay, our contractor, and between the government agency, Bureau of Contract Administration. It's being revealed to me that there is some miscommunication. And if not, well, it has to be something, because it's a misunderstanding at least in terms of what is being shared for Walshay. And so that concerns me, because you're telling me of something a little different than what I'm hearing from them. So I'd like for this to expeditiously be worked out. I'm hearing you say that the design is a problem that has popped up, that has caused the problem. I'm hearing them say that more resources on behalf of the contractor, you, Walshay, needs to be implemented to help be able to resolve some of these problems. And so there is a split here in terms of what the problem really is, and it needs to be resolved, because I perceive from across the street there to be some kind of resistance on your behalf. And I was told by MTA that that's not necessarily true. However, what I do know is that this miscommunication has to stop, and it needs to do so expeditiously, and that we need to have our project done in a kind of way that is professional, and that these punch items are done. We have a standard as everybody or every client you have would want to have executed. And it is our expectation that you will resolve this miscommunication, or whatever we want to call it, and that we are all on one page, and that we're all on the same ship, and we're going in the same direction, so that you already know that we expect to support the standards of the City of Los Angeles in our construction practices. You knew that before you came to town, right?
Absolutely.
I just want to reiterate that this board strongly feels that today. And we feel that in looking at this problem that has not been done, we're kind of frustrated and tired about it. You know what I'm saying? And we want you to do a better job at communicating and understanding what is being said with your clients and what is being said with your supervisors, so that you all can be on the same ship going in the same direction. Because right now, as I see it, we got 3 different ships going 3 different ways. And that's not going to work for us in the City of Los Angeles. So I hope that we have your commitment to get in here and work with your supervisor, and then ultimately to have job satisfaction with your work, and to help satisfy us, the client, because we ain't satisfied right now. We're not, and I think you know that.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Just, did I understand from you correctly that the punch list is going to start, the timeline that you gave us is going to start March 4th?
Yes, ma'am.
And the reason for delaying that punch list is?
That was the most optimal way we saw to build the job. When we agreed back in November and December on how we were going to go forward, with knowing the critical areas of the job and what areas there were outstanding issues to get roadblocks, I guess for a better word, before we get in an area, we want to be able to complete it.
So based on your experience, do you feel that completing let me get that back. When, I haven't seen the timeline. So the punch list is scheduled to be finished if everything goes well?
Just to clarify, Commissioner
Yeah.
Garcia, so the punch list for those items that we
600.
discussed, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So those items start March 4th, and that's at the Park Mesa area. It's the first area that we'll be working on those. And basically August 30th is the timeline.
And by doing that timeline, March 4th to August 30th, will that back up your work that you're doing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you're fully committing that March to August 30th will work?
Yes, ma'am.
And we have an issue, BCA has an issue because it hasn't been done at the time that we needed it to be done? I'm just trying to get this completely straight from both sides.
I don't want to speak for Chris and the team, but I believe that it was outstanding since last year.
Right. So what was the reason for not tackling it last year?
At that point in time, it's because we had left those areas. We had a punch list procedure that we were intending to use as the contractor that we believed was part of our contract, and that was, in our mind, circumvented at the time, and we did not want to go back to these areas as Sam A. referenced earlier when he spoke and get continual ongoing punch lists. We wanted to be able to come in, get a punch list that was approved through Metro and the city, and then be able to perform that work and be done. Recently, in the last 2 months, we've agreed with ConAd on that process going forward, verbally. So now that we've got that agreement in place, we scheduled the work according to the dates I just gave you, and that's our plan going forward.
So if everything goes well on August 30, September 1st or 2nd, you'll be here telling us that the punch list is done and completed?
That particular portion of it. Now, I anticipate punch lists going all the way through the rest of the year.
Oh,
which
I
matches up
agree.
with their substantial
But
completion.
the current on question is this current 600 one that you've developed a timeline for, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're expected and we're counting that that's going to happen, and Metro is going to supervise that kind of goes along with the timeline, and you're meeting those expectations, right?
Correct.
And this resources conversation is not an issue for you?
No, ma'am. I don't believe it is. I mean, will we need other resources as the job goes on? Yes, ma'am. But we're not holding up resources or not bringing resources for any reason.
And resource, was it defined as in manpower?
I believe it's just a manpower
That's what I meant.
discussion that we're
So
having.
you're
Yes, ma'am.
planning to hire some kind of a crew that will handle the punch list first and then continue the rest? Or what is your plan of action? I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to do both if it hasn't been done last year.
Fair question. It'll be a mixture of, it'll be mainly the guys that either we have or that we bring in, and as they're completing the work in an area, they will complete the punch list items as well. Typically it's not specialty guys or anything like that.
Got
It's
it.
just their,
And BCA, was this what you know too? I think, Chris? Is this what you knew from him before too, coming to today's board meeting?
From our last meeting, yes, we have agreed to everything that Jeff spoke about. Again, the process has been refined. We've actually talked about it for over a year, but now it's time to implement the process. And
Okay.
I do believe that we are going in that direction, but I can't speak to this board until the work's actually done.
Okay, so what can we do to make sure that does happen?
well, I believe that we can continue meeting every couple of weeks between the leaders on the project and with the city and with Metro as well, as opposed to just depending on, the project staff to get it done. Back to my point, I think there is some pretty significant potential roadblocks in front of us that we have to get cleared. Otherwise, the work, regardless of resources, cannot be performed.
Okay, well, you're on public record, so there you go. Let's hope that we do keep it on time and so forth, but this community really needs, to get this going, and we want to open it back up to this community. They've been kind of going through a lot of road closures for so long that we just want to make sure that they're back being able to use this metro station, but also their lanes and their roads are open back to normality, and the businesses do not get even more impacted, which is a big issue too. So that's my kind of please. Let's get this done, let's move it forward, let's open up on time, and just let the businesses go back to normal.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Thank you, Mr. Mays. Thank you to our Metro representatives and our Bureau of Contract Administration representatives. The oral report will be received Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned with the exception of the Bureau Heads meeting, which will take place in the conference room.
Great. Mr. President, just for clarification on this item, this will be closed, or would you like to continue this item for a future date, or
No,
just close it out at this point in time?
No, the oral report's received, but
Received.
we will get another, we will agendize another update, and the parties will get plenty of notice as to when that will be.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, he needs a